get in line to get on the bus. And moneymaker, though, I'll tell you.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Bonita Springs Fire Control and Rescue District meeting to order, May 11th, 2015. Please rise for invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
We'd like to have a moment of silence for 6 firefighters that passed away this past month here in America. And following that, we'll pray. Dear God, we come to you this evening and we give honor to those that have served as firefighters and those that have lost their life this past month. Lord, we thank you for their service and their sacrifice. We pray that you'll be with their families and that you might guard and watch over them. Now, Lord, as always, we ask for protection of our firefighters as they serve each and every day. I thank you, Lord, for their commitment. I thank you for their dedication to helping others. Be with the commissioners and the administrators as they make decisions that impact lives. I pray, Lord, you'll grant them wisdom. So in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is the approval of the regular board minutes from April 13th, 2015.
I'll make a motion they be approved.
I have a comment. Are we approving the minutes of the last meeting or the minutes of the special meeting also?
Both, but
Both?
there's separate motions.
Okay, separate motion. Okay.
Motion. All in favor of the regular board minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Now I need a motion for the approval of the special meeting, March 24th, 2015.
So moved.
I have a correction.
Second.
Okay,
I have a correction for those.
okay.
I'm doing this from memory now, please excuse me, but it seems to me that the minutes read that we opened the meeting, then we went into the shade session, then we closed the meeting. They should read that we came back out here, took a vote, and then closed the session. And the results of that vote should be in those minutes, I believe.
I must have overlooked that because I thought they were. Do you have a copy of those in front of you without me going to that page in my computer? Thank you. It says that the commissioners reconvened into the special meeting and then the meeting was adjourned. What part did?
Well, we convened a special meeting, right?
It said we called a special meeting to order at 4:04. Everybody that was in attendance. And the board, Chief Daigle and Attorney Maggie Mooney-Portelli recessed into attorney-client session at 4:10. Commissioner Forbes joined the executive session. The commissioners reconvened into the special meeting, which is the public portion of the meeting,
Okay.
and the meeting was adjourned.
But my recollection is there was a vote taken there when we reconvened. Am I correct?
The vote to proceed
Yes.
with the
Right, with what we had discussed.
with what we had discussed.
Yeah.
Which we couldn't talk about because but we were just, the vote was just to move forward with our next step, and that's
That was-
correct.
Yes, sir, if I may. That vote was taken in the special meeting because that vote is not public as far as this.
My recollection is.
I think
that-
we did. I think we came out
Taken at
here
this table.
in the
Did we-
public, part of the meeting,
Yeah.
we did add to that we would, and I believe the vote was 4-1, if I'm correct.
It was a roll call vote,
Okay.
yes.
With Commissioner McCourt
Right.
dissenting.
Okay.
So if we could amend the minutes to say that.
Well, why, either that or wait till they come back amended, and then we could act on it.
I think amending that line is probably all we need to accept the minutes.
I changed my, make my statement with the changes to, make a motion to accept those minutes with the changes.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I need one motion for financials, April 2015 and current expenditures, acknowledgement of April 2015 financial report, and the acknowledgement of wire transfers and transfers between accounts.
I'll make the motion.
I second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next item of business is some annual service pins. Chief?
Yes, I'd like to recognize Captain Paul Phillips for his 10 years of service. Captain Phillips is not with us here tonight, but if anybody here knows Paul, he is about the most dedicated employee that I've
Amen.
ever seen, and probably the best fire trainer in the county. He's taught up at the Lee County Fire School, and we're lucky to have him. He's actually from Fairfax, Virginia. I think he put in 7 or 10 years in Fairfax, and he's worked here for 10 years now, and we're happy to have him. And I just wanted to, even though he's not here, I'd like to recognize his service.
He's a fine gentleman, too.
Yeah,
Very nice
yes.
person.
He is. Next, I'd like to introduce our MDA presentation from Chelsea Miller and Michael Jones. They're here. They're going to take the podium, if you would, please.
Thank you for your introduction. I'm Chelsea Miller. I'm a Director of Business Development with the Southwest Florida chapter of the Muscular Dystrophy Association. I'm here today to recognize Local 3444 and the Bonita Springs Fire Department for their Fill the Boot efforts. Back in March, it was really fantastic. They did a great job. They raised $27,000 this year, which is a record, I think, in at least the last 5 years. So that's fantastic. If you guys aren't familiar, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about MDA and our partnership with the IAFF. MDA is over 60 years old. Our focus is to save and improve the lives of our families that we serve that are living with neuromuscular disease. Those include muscular dystrophy, ALS, and other life-threatening diseases of the muscles. The IAFF partnership happened in 1954 when some firefighters had a friend whose son had muscular dystrophy. They got together, like firefighters do. They said, we want to help. They organized a boot drive, and then it took off like wildfire. The next thing you know, or that was in Boston, then it spread to Massachusetts, New England, and then the United States, and it became an official nationwide partnership. We just celebrated the 60th anniversary of that last year. So it's a great time to be bigger and better than ever, just to really show our communities and our country that we are still both good American traditions, and we're very excited to be partnered with one another. One of our biggest supporters, some of you may know him, his name is Leroy Nottingham. He's a wonderful, wonderful person. He's done a lot both for Lee County and firefighters and for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. And recently, his great-grandson Carter, who is so cute, just got diagnosed with muscular dystrophy. So Leroy has taken a special interest in our results this year, just because now he has even more skin in the game. He couldn't be here today, but he wanted me to share a quote with you. It's, "Thank you, brothers and sisters. My family deeply appreciates you finding the time to fill the boot. I know that together we will find a cure for muscular dystrophy and for Carter, my sweet boy. Filling the boot is truly a heroic act. Many of these kids have no one to fight for them but you are more than enough." The $27,000 that you all raised is enough to fund 415 minutes of research that will find a cure. It's enough to keep 54 families mobile for an entire year. It's enough to protect 900 children from the flu. If we get the flu, we're down for the count for maybe a week or so. If they get the flu, it can be life-threatening. And it's enough to fund 270 support groups where families can meet each other, share their struggles, make friends, and feel like they're part of a community. And it's enough to send 34 children to summer camp, which a lot of them describe as the best week of the year. They say that's the only time of the year where they look around the room and they feel like they're normal because everybody looks and has the same struggles as them. I also wanted to invite you all to our summer camp. It's happening on June 24th. Our sponsor activities go from 10:30 until 2. I'll also send an email. It's going to be in Brandon at the Rotary Camp there. It's a great opportunity. It's really a blessing to be a part of if you have the chance to make it. And I wanted to acknowledge our coordinator, Cheryl Call, but I will let my friend Mike Jones have a few moments of your time to just talk about his personal experience with MDA before we do that.
My name is Michael Jones. I was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy 3 years ago. And through all your fundraising and support and the money that you raised helps people like me and my family continue to be mobile and do things that I would not otherwise be able to do without the help of the MDA. So I just want to thank you for all your help in raising the money with the Fill the Boot and say thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Should Cheryl come up?
Is Cheryl here? Yeah.
Come on, Dan. So we have a couple things for you. The first, this is a high five from Carter that we were just talking about.
Can you please talk into the microphone
Sorry.
because we're recording this? Thank you.
This is a high five from Carter, the little boy that we were just talking about. He's Leroy Nottingham's great-grandson. So that's his little handprint. And he wanted to give you guys a high five, and especially Cheryl, for all your hard work. So here's that. And we also have a 2-night stay to the West Wind Inn on Sanibel Island for you as another thank you for all your hard work.
Okay. I'd like to take a picture now. Okay. And we would like to present MDA with the check. So they're going to do that there.
Has anybody ever tried to trick one of those into the bank?
That'd be interesting. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Chelsea, very much.
We're not quite done with Cheryl yet. You're coming up a little bit later. I did want to mention that, as long as I've been a firefighter here, the MDA working with the local, and that the commissioners allow, and that we allow firefighters to collect is very thankful, for you. So, moving on, next item is a 2014 audit presentation by Ashley Brown, and Jeff's here to make a presentation.
Good afternoon. For the record, I'm here to present your audit for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2014. I got a short little presentation. I'll bring a couple things to your attention that's a little bit new this year, some new formatting and some new numbers. But feel free to interrupt me as we go along if you've got any questions. The first thing is on page 1 and 2. This is our independent auditor's report. On page 2, the top of the page states that, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position. In English, what that means is that your financial statements were presented to us accurately, they were complete, we didn't have to make any recommendations or adjustments that needed to be made. So this is what used to be referred to as an unqualified, they changed the word, now it's an unmodified or a clean opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that you'll receive from an auditor. Basically, all the records were organized, your staff did a great job in putting this massive document together, which I obviously won't go through every page here. If you flip to the next page, page 3, this starts your management's discussion and analysis, and if you haven't, I encourage you to flip through this. It's in a narrative format, it's got some tables, it's kind of presents some comparative data from 2014 to the previous years, but that first paragraph kind of hits the main highlight, which is the main difference that's in here this year. The Governmental Accounting Standards Boards, or the GASB, they're the ones that set the accounting standards that governments in the United States have to follow. Basically, this was the first year that this new standard came out with an attempt to help clarify some of the pension standards that are out there, which I'll show you what that does to you in here. But about halfway down the page there, you can see that at the close of the fiscal year, the district's liabilities, the net position was negative 2.8 million, but I'll show you that a couple more times in here. The next highlight in here is the total revenues actually increased 1.7 million or 10% from what they were in the prior year, and expenses decreased 1.3 million or 7%. So those are both positive variances. If you flip back to page 10, that's actually where the financial statements themselves begin. And at the very bottom of the page, you see that $2.8 million number. The biggest impact on that is a $21 million liability that hit this year. So that's what made that number go negative. It's a one-time hit, and hopefully next year going forward, that number would change from a negative number to a positive number. But if you flip back to page 12, this is a little more of a current snapshot of what the current assets and the current liabilities were at 9/30/14. Total number to the right, total assets 8.4 million, total current liabilities 741,000. So the total fund balances for the general fund and the impact fee fund are positive 7.6 million. If you flip back to all the way back into the back, page 81 is your budget versus actual schedule. There's a couple things in here that kind of jump out and look a little funky. I just wanted to put a little clarification on there. On about under the total revenues, the third line from the bottom, there was $1 million loan proceeds that were budgeted during the year, and that did not go through. So that's why you see that negative $1,040,000 sticking out there. And then you see that a similar number down about halfway under expenditures for the capital outlay. You'll see where there was 1.3 million budgeted, but only $300,000 was spent. So there's that $1 million offset that I'm referring to. Flip back a couple more pages. There's another one of our reports in here. This one's labeled our report on page 87. I'm sorry. Report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters. There's two positive statements in here. The first one being the last sentence at the top of the page on page 88. I'm sorry. Under compliance and other matters, the results of our tests disclose no instances of non-compliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. The next thing is on page 89. This starts our management letter. This is a little bit different format as it was in prior years. They're trying to kind of mirror what the independent auditors report, to where you have these kind of bold highlighted statements that sort of break apart what the auditor's responsibility is, if there were any prior audit findings, financial condition. But again, all these are positive statements. You complied with everything you were supposed to. There were no issues of non-compliance or violation of Florida statutes or rules of the Auditor General, all those sorts of things. They did change one thing. There's an extra report in here, which is on page 92. It's not anything that's actually new. This statement used to be in the management letter in all the other previous years. This year, they wanted to place a little bit more emphasis on it, and that's why it's sitting here on its own page. But if you're in compliance, it says that you complied with the investment policies. With that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions for Jeff?
Well, we might have some more. We have a chance to digest this.
Sure.
I assume we can call?
Absolutely. Call, email, our contact information is in there, and your staff knows how to get a hold of us. And
Good.
yes, sir, more than happy to help wherever we can.
I have a question.
Sure.
On page 66,
Okay.
we have a current discount rate of 8%. And if you have a 1% decrease of 7%, it's one number, and if you have an increase of 1% to 9%, it's another number. Can you explain those numbers a bit to me?
Yes and no. These are assumptions that actually your actuary, Foster & Foster, they put these assumptions together, and then part of those things that you're asking about are exactly what comes back to how that liability is booked. But as far as exactly where they come from and the historical trend data that's with them, they're the experts on that. They're more able to answer that accurately than I am.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions?
Thank you, sir. You're welcome.
Next item, old business. Anybody have anything? Under new business, disposition report.
That's a list of assets that were taken off of the inventory. A list, can you hear me? It's a list of assets that were taken off of the inventory report. It includes a generator that was on one of the trucks that was in service in 1990, a VCR, a couple of nozzles, an exercise machine, and a radio that's obsolete.
Need a motion?
Yes.
Need a motion to accept the disposition report?
So move.
All in favor?
Aye. Let's have a second. I'll second it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you did second. I apologize. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Any other new business? Anybody got anything you want to talk about?
I have something.
Okay.
One of my greatest disappointments in serving on a board like this and other boards is that we don't get a chance to talk to each other. It's, under the sunshine rules. And I believe that we should spend more time in these meetings discussing ideas and concepts rather than just reports and that sort of thing. To that end, I wanted to get an idea of how you gentlemen feel about the notion of single-member districts. This is a concept that has been bounced around a lot in political circles, and it's generally considered that single-member districts offer a better opportunity to be close to your constituents, to get feedback, and to offer accountability. When you have, like we have, which is one district where we're all elected at large, it's more difficult for the constituents to feel that they have that kind of control over us. And it's much easier for special interest groups to influence the way the board moves. So those are, as I see it anyway, those are the two sides of it. And I'd like to get the feel of the rest of you, as if you feel the same way I do. But I think we should have single-member districts in this constituency.
Anybody got any comment on it?
Before I can make a firm statement, is there anything in state law or anything else that says that we have to be district-wide, or you can have districts, or other fire districts have, region, or what do you call it, district within a district? Does anybody know?
I do know that that's not the way our charter is set up. However, we can discuss, I don't know, quite frankly, I don't know the answer to that, but I would have to talk with our attorney to find out if that's even possible before I would render an opinion on whether or not that can happen.
I understand that. Anything is possible with a referendum. I mean, we could change the whole charter if we wanted to. We have that ability. And I just wanted to know how we as a group felt about that. That seems to make some sense. Obviously, it's worked very well for the city and a lot of other constituencies where people have a feeling that they have better control over their elected representatives, and their representatives are more accountable.
Anybody else?
Well, I would still want to ask Terry Lewis if there's any in the state statute that create a special
Well,
district.
assuming that it's legal,
Yeah.
how do we feel about this?
I personally have to think about it for a while. It's just something you hit me with new. I don't have an opinion at this moment until I research it.
I agree with that position.
I think there's merits to it. I would want more time to think about it. I mean, there's pluses and minuses, but I also want to find out if there's anything to preclude it. But I have no problem with, let's think about it and come back and talk about it at either next meeting or the meeting after that.
Chief, why don't you check into that and see what the laws say, and we'll bring this up at another meeting.
Yes, sir.
No,
Then I would just simply ask a favor of the rest of you gentlemen, if you would do a little research into it yourselves, so that you have an opinion on it, and then we can discuss those opinions and have some meaningful discussion. Thank you.
I may have something to bring up. Are we still going to do at the end of the meeting, is there any other commissioner business or thoughts or?
There's commissioner's
Okay.
business, or you can bring something up now.
I can wait to the end. It's not that.
Okay. All right, hearing no more new business, we're going to move on to Chief Joe Daigle for his report.
Yes, gentlemen, I have a few items. First, I wanted to discuss our property that we own out east of town, east of Village Walk. Apparently, when we bought that property was approximately an acre. Looking at that property now, it is not conducive for us to be able to build a station on it with one of our modeled stations that we have, like our Station 2 or Station 5. Well, not 5, 5 also has a 3-bay door. We would, in fact, need more land in order to build that same type of model station. However, we have been in contact, and the fire marshal has been in contact with Lennar Homes, and what they have offered us is we were initially thinking about a way to potentially purchase more property in order to be able to meet the required drainage for the acre. But Lennar Homes has agreed to, at this point, we don't have anything on paper, but to engineer a drainage site on their property to include our station. So they would engineer the whole site plan for us, which is going to save us a lot of money, and we won't need to purchase in the future when we do build that station out there. Additionally, Lennar, right now, that land sits in an area that is under the East Bonita Beach Community Development, which is essentially a homeowners association similar to what Station 5 is. Lennar also, they are in the process of removing themselves from that homeowners association, for lack of a better term, and they have offered to include us in that removal from the homeowners association, which will save us money down the road. We anticipate would save us money down the road. So as you know, we pay money for the homeowners association at Station 5. We are in the process now of making that situation come to fruition. I ran it by our attorney, Terry Lewis, and his opinion is that is a very good idea.
And if they do that, the station, our model station, will then fit on that.
The way we looked at it, I believe it will fit on an acre. Is that correct, Fire Marshal?
They haven't really agreed to anything in
Sure.
writing yet, but the idea is that we need a drainage mitigation to keep the water on property and for retention and also detention. Their property that they are developing next door is about 225 homes, has a lake in it, and they, the talk is maybe incorporate our drainage into that lake. So we plan on meeting with them, sitting down, discussing on how, if we can't buy the land, maybe we could work a way to get what we can't for the land that we don't have in order to work with their property, is the idea we're looking at. So we'll see how it works out.
And they seem favorable to that.
They seem favorable. Sit down and discuss that. Like the chief was saying, this other part is a community development district that they're petitioning for us to get out of, because they're getting out of it also. So that's what we're working with them, doing that at no cost to us.
It sounds like sounds positive to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we think it could be, and of course, this is pending discussions with them, but it looks
Sure.
favorable for us at this time. Next, I'd like to discuss the building, well, actually, Bonita Beach, as many of the members here understand, that for the last several years, actually probably about 15 years, I would say, we've been looking for property out on the beach to build a fire station. In our investigation, and actually with a lot of help from the city, we have located a building, which is the CenturyLink building, which is on McLaughlin Boulevard on the southeast side?
Northeast.
Northeast side. It's a home that's already, it's a stilt home that's already there that CenturyLink uses as a switching station. And what makes this attractive for our needs is there's approximately a 50-foot seawall out back that could house our water rescue response with our boat. Additionally, CenturyLink has a apartment that is attached to the switching station, which has been vacant since they've had it. What that gives, from our perspective, it gives us an opportunity to be able to place some staff there with a light rescue truck to be able to respond emergency medical calls from that station, fire calls, etc., cutting our response time by a significant amount. Also, it creates a situation where we do not have to trailer our boat to our emergency water rescue calls, having the crew there to be able to respond, which we are running quite a few now, as most of you know, to respond to our water rescue calls with the crew intact, ready to go. So I just wanted to open up some discussion on that. There's nothing, we've met with CenturyLink and we looked at the building. There are some upgrades that would need to happen should this took place. But I wanted to create the discussion here because the next step would be, we haven't got a number about whether CenturyLink, there's two options, speaking with just the representative of CenturyLink right now. Nothing, we have no numbers, but the option is either buy the property and themselves the property and we lease it back to them, or vice versa, they lease us the property for an extended period of time. These are just some of the options that are out there right now. They have not rented the property because under their particular, I guess, ordinance, I would imagine, they can't rent it to anybody except for maybe somebody like us that could use it for public safety. But that's one of the advantages at this point. But I just wanted to bring that up for discussion for the board.
Well, it sounds to me like it solves a response time issue. It's in a great location. Obviously, we have to run some numbers. I hesitate to say that we want to put a lot of money into a building that isn't ours. That's the only drawback of renting from CenturyLink. If CenturyLink gets bought out by somebody else and once our 10-year, 15-year, whatever, how long lease is up, that would be the only concern, where the fire department will be here forever and maybe CenturyLink won't and another company will take them over. Just from skimming the surface, it may make more sense if financially, they're not going to charge a ridiculous price for it. To me, it would make sense for us to buy it and have them lease it from us so we could control our own destiny. If we agreed that that was a good place to run a light rescue with probably 3 people and have the boat there, it makes total sense to me with the problems that we have with response to the beach and especially to the north end of the island.
Can I piggyback on your thoughts?
Yes, absolutely.
I think leasing would be okay providing there is an option to buy. And some arrangement where maybe this, for so many years, it's rent, but you still have the option, and when you kick into another period, then a big percentage of the lease goes towards purchase, because then you got kind of the best of both worlds, because if the department is going to possibly think about building a station to the east, which will happen somewhere in the foreseeable future because of all the additional building going on down there, and we have other things we're thinking about doing, it seems to me that would be a better way to go about it, providing you can structure the deal. And then the other thing is, when we're talking about this, my understanding is we're manning it with one person 24/7. We're not putting 3 people there.
The idea is to,
Well, let's see, we might have to hire one more person, that's right. And then we bring in people from other stations kind of on a rotating basis to fill out what you need.
we have a couple of staffing scenarios. I think that we'll get more specific with each of you once we have a couple of the scenarios laid out. But the idea right now would be to have it as a 3-person station without an engine, a pumper, but with a light rescue staff of 3 people.
Right.
And one of the reasons is we don't run water rescue with 2 people. We have to have 3 people on the boat,
Right.
according to our protocol, in order for safe operations. So that's one of the reasons, aside from the medical response. And I know that I did want to touch briefly, and I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Chief DeWitt. He's going to mention just some of the response times that, briefly, that we've talked to. Of course, this isn't a comprehensive review, but he had done a few preliminary numbers.
Greg, before you start, I just want to interject one thing in case we overlook this. Now that we're talking about this publicly, the department, I believe, needs to, even in the discussion stage, needs to get a hold of all the neighbors down there. Now that it's out here, we're talking about it, I think we need to get a list of all the abutters, anybody that this is going to in any way, shape, or form affect, and reach out to them and keep them totally in the loop, because the rumors start and stuff happens, and maybe people will love it, maybe people will hate it, but I think that it's incumbent on us to make sure that any property owners down there know everything that we're doing, even when we're in the discussion stages, and if it never happens, they should be in that loop, and I'd really appreciate that if we could reach out to those people.
Yes, sir.
One last question. The size of the site is such that you would never be able to fit a model fire station on it, correct?
No, this site is not
Wouldn't be zoned for
conducive
it.
for a full fire company
Right.
engine or ladder truck. It's strictly to provide a initial response.
Yeah,
for-
that was my question was for the public, not.
Well, it's my understanding that the zoning is okay for CenturyLink, and we've been kind of led to believe that we wouldn't have to go through a land use change to put a light rescue there because it's already being used in a commercial basis. Now, is that correct?
Well, I've spoken with the city manager, Carl Schwing, and we're going to work together to try to figure out if there is a way, or if there is a need to change any type of land use or what the law is versus the city. In fact, we're in the middle of setting up a meeting as we speak to find the best way to go about it in order to make it happen, and if it's in fact something the city would be obliged to do with us.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, Greg.
Oh, that's all right. I just wanted to bring out a couple incidences that we've talked about tonight, is response times and distances. According to the GFO, which is a governmental financing office, it's kind of like with an audit, they also have some rules about how close fire stations should be and so on. And the rule is around 2.5 miles is how close they should be to equate to your 6-minute response time. But just to give you an idea, from our Station 2 to Lover's Key, which is basically the end of the district line, is about 7.8 miles, which gives us a response time, normal traffic, of about 17 minutes. If we were to enter into this agreement with CenturyLink, now that time would be from McLaughlin to Lover's Key would be about 4.8 miles. So we cut 3 miles off of that. So from our Station 2 to where that McLaughlin station is, it's right at 3 miles, 6 minutes. So we're cutting off 6 minutes of response time there. Then for our most populated area, let's go to the north end of Hickory Island, down there towards the Bonita Beach Club. That itself, from our Station 2 right now, is 4.4 miles and 12-minute response time. From this proposed station from McLaughlin, it is 1.5 miles, which gives us about a little less than a 5-minute response time. So for those people in those condos where we've had a high-rise condo fire, with this initial response, they can get a lot of things done along with medical, because we always talk about medical time is tissue. We want to be there within 4 to 6 minutes, so it's cutting those times in half. And as far as the neighbors, I agree with Chairman Lohan. The one thing that we do have to put in there and remember is, right now, if they respond from Station 2 all the way to the Beach Club, everybody along Hickory Boulevard's hearing that sirens from Mango Drive all the way to the very end. This way, at least those first people, that first access from Mango to McLaughlin, they're not going to hear that. The people from McLaughlin to the north, they're going to hear it anyway, no matter how we respond. So we will talk to them. We've discussed this at lengths about going to the neighbors and talking to them.
Well, my point there being is that, if you live there.
Yeah, no, I know.
Hey, a firehouse is going to move in next door, So, I think that we need to address that right away and get out in front of it and at least tell people what we're talking about, what we're thinking about, and get their input, I would think that they would be happy about it, but far be it for me to assume anything, so I think we need to reach out.
You'll have to be our poster child as being a neighbor of a fire station and tell us how great neighbors we are.
Absolutely.
Chairman Lohan?
Yes, sir.
Speaking as a resident, and I also have some knowledge about this particular site, and it's been discussed, the Beach Association has been looking at that for quite some time in terms of suggesting it to you. So I applaud you fellows for looking at the situation and understanding that we do have a problem. That's step one, I suppose. Step two, of course, is that I don't think anybody out there objects to a siren. I hear a lot of comments about 2 sirens. Okay, now you know where I'm going. I believe that as a fire department, or whatever we're going to call ourselves, and it moves into the 21st century, we've got to get away from this notion of station-based responses. And we've got to look at mobile responses. That would be an ideal location to park an ambulance. And we don't need anything except their driveway to do it. And I'm sure that CenturyLink would not have a problem with that. And I'm sure the neighborhood would not have a problem with that. When you go to dozens of other cities around the country, some of them 2-3 times our size, some of them half our size, you find ambulances, whether they're fire department ambulances or EMS ambulances, parked on the street corner, parked in the church parking lot or the 7-Eleven or wherever. They're out in the neighborhood ready to respond. And the cities that have been able to have able to brag about a response of 5 minutes or less 90% of the time are doing it with mobile responses, not station responses. So I would urge you to continue to look at this, because I think it's something we desperately need, but I think it can be handled very nicely with some kind of a mobile unit, whether you want to call it a rapid response unit, whether you want to call it an ambulance, whatever you want to call it. But paramedics in a vehicle parked at the street corner, ready to go, is the future, in my opinion.
Thank you. Are our response times in that ballpark now?
To the most areas, like I'm saying, if we
Well, yeah, but I mean, across the district, generally
Across the
speaking,
district,
we're in that.
We
we're in
hit
that
it,
time
I
frame.
believe it's 80 to 85% of the time right now.
Right.
And that's with, again, outlying areas being here to Village Walk, Station 2 to.
That's bringing
down-
everything into the average,
Exactly.
so. Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Just on that, I did go down to that location And I walked around the location with the chief, and I think Greg, you were there, but it's an amazing location. It'd be perfect as far as for the boat ramp, for the boat dock, and if we could use the 3 bedrooms, I think that would be an ideal location and cut down our response times. So I'm all for that, regardless, I mean, taking away the stipulations of how we're going to lease it, buy it, whatever, we'll work that out later, but as far as the location, I think it's a great area, great spot.
If we could just get CenturyLink to cooperate, that'll be great.
Yeah.
What's that going to take?
I'm not from New York.
I am. Let's go.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next on the item on my list is budgeting calendar. Did you have a chance to look at the budgeting calendar in your packet? It's just a calendar of the events that are, how, basically what page is that? Just how we are doing our budget and what we have scheduled internally, and also the budget workshops for the board. There's not a page number on it, but did you get a chance to see it?
I don't think I've seen anything on that yet.
Should have been the last page of your agenda.
Your board packet?
Your board package would be the last page.
This is the last page. You find a moment to just take a
Did we
look
get
at
that handed out today? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, on your computer. No, it should have been emailed to you. You should have had a board packet, an agenda.
Oh, the board packet online,
And
yeah.
online.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have that with me.
Anyway, if I could see that for a second, Lisa. On May 15th, 2015, we're doing an in-house budgets. They're due from each division, each one of the divisions on the fire in our district. They report that to me and Lisa. On June 1st, 2015 is the proposed taxable value from Lee County. That's on June 1st. On June 11th, we do an internal workshop at 9 o'clock in the morning. On July 1st, we get the Lee County certifies the taxable value. On June 9th, we have a budget workshop at 3 p.m., Station 4.
July.
July
You
9th.
said June.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
I'm looking at my calendar. The June 11th internal budget workshop is just staff.
Correct.
That's just, yeah, for the staff. On July 13th, board is set to propose preliminary millage. August 13th, internal budget workshop. And August 27th, our budget workshop, official budget workshop. September 14th, a tentative millage rate and tentative budget. And September 25th is adopt the final millage rate and final budget at 5:01 p.m. I will make sure I resend this to you.
We have it, I'm sorry, I didn't copy it all.
If there's any issues with any of the dates for the workshops and actually for the.
Well, the only ones that affect the commissioners, the way I see it, are July 9th,
Yes, sir.
August 27th, no, July 13th,
July 13th, yes, sir.
which we have a board meeting that day anyway.
Mhm. And August 27th and September 14th. And also September 25th.
And we have a board meeting on the 14th of September anyway.
The 25th date might change. It depends when the county and the school board have their final budget hearing.
Right.
Just for your reference, if you have any other questions, feel free to contact me and we'll make whatever arrangements we need to. Next on my items, I did want to mention some of the district awards. As many of you know, we had our 50th anniversary, and we did give out some awards at our awards banquet, I believe it was Saturday night, and I wanted to mention them publicly. First, I'd like to mention that our firefighter of the year was Mr. Jared Carey. I'd like to mention that firefighter Jonathan Hernandez achieved EMT of the year. Firefighter Giovanni Zamora is our paramedic of the year. Fire prevention employee of the year was Inspector Alan Hogreef. Civilian employee of the year was Mrs. Cheryl Call, who's here with us today. Officer of the year was Lieutenant Stephen Bunn. And district employee of the year was public educator Natalie Hughes. I don't know if she's here. No. And Iris Moore received the Distinguished Service Award for her years of service. Just wanted to publicly thank these employees for making this a fine organization. Next, I would like to ask if the chaplain would get up and speak about a class he had attended at the Florida State Fire College that the district sent him to.
Okay, thank you. Had the privilege of attending a class up at the Florida College on fire chaplaincy. Just many of you are new since I started. I started as the volunteer chaplain in April of 2011, I believe. So other than having ministerial experience, I'm the full-time minister at Anchor Christian Church just down the road. Began volunteering here, and it was a good opportunity for me to go and see how other districts do it. The leader of the class was Joe La Canada. He is the chaplain for the Marion County Fire District, and they have about 23 stations at Marion County. He coordinates a lot of different things with the firefighters there and the stations and things like that. So it was a good experience. Some of the things I took away from it were the emphasis. One of the things they talked about was helping firefighters through the stress of dealing with the stress of the job, and talked about how to basically help firefighters in that situation. Another aspect that I'd not really thought a lot about, but I think is a good thing to think about, is also not only do we train our firefighters to do all the mechanical things and they know how to do all the logistics of firefighting, but the other aspect of being a firefighter is all the emotional and psychological dynamics that they deal with, because there's a lot more that goes on after they leave the fire station than their job, and how do you deal with that. So it kind of brought my awareness up of it may be good. I suggested this, I think, to the chief at orientation, to have a session just on dynamics of psychology as well as dealing with families. Because if the firefighters' families are not functioning well because of the stress of the job, then it impacts their job performance also. So talked a lot about those type of things, and so it was a beneficial day. And another idea I got from the day, and I'm going to try to do that here, went down to Panera Bread today, and I talked to Panera and said, hey, would you be willing to donate some bagels? And they're going to, once a week on Tuesdays, they're going to give me a dozen bagels that I can just take to the different firehouses and just say thanks to the guys, and we appreciate what you do. And so that's something that will help me get to know what's going on and things like that. So try to take away some things from it that we can apply. So I don't know if any of you have any questions of me. Maybe you've always wondered why I show up and pray at this thing.
Well, I for one appreciate everything you've done, and thank you very much for putting the time in that you do, and for especially going to the class. Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity to do it. So. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Chaplain, I for one am very thankful for what you do. Gentlemen, that's all I have in my report. Thank you.
Assistant Chief DeWitt.
I'm back. What I want to report on, if you remember, it was back in January when Deputy Chief Giuliano and myself went to the Foundation for the Developmentally Disabled, and we auctioned off firefighter for a day. Well, coincidentally, last month we had they redeemed them both last month. So I just want to kind of touch on it a little bit. I have one, then I was, I guess you'd call it the ringleader on the second one, and Deputy Chief Giuliano did the first one, so I'll let him talk about that one. But the one I did, Brad, can you get the lights for me, please? What we had this day was a group of disabled adults. And that's what they did, is they wanted to come in and hang out with the firefighters for the day. And this is the parting group of it at the end of it. And it was a great day, and we talked about it, and they had fun. Some of them were in wheelchairs. This lady here was in a wheelchair. We actually picked her up and put her inside, got the ladder down as low as we could, got her up in the bucket, and took her for a ride on it. This gentleman here, we let him ride in a truck. What we did basically for all these for all these adults was we just let them be part of us for the day. We sit and had lunch with them. We had cake with them at the end of it all. Here we are putting one of them in there, and some of these gentlemen are, I would say, in their mid-40s. So a couple of them, like I said, we had to pick them up and put them in there. We talked to the caregivers during and after, because they had their caregivers here, and they said these are memories that they will take with them for their entire life. This lady here stayed with us. We got done around 2. She and her caregiver basically hung out and talked to us for a good hour and a half afterwards, and we took them on a tour of the whole station. Here they are riding around it. They got to do the lights and the sirens, and they just had a blast. And like I said, we had more fun. There's more smiles on our faces than I think theirs, or at least an equal number. And again, it was donated for charity, and the foundation itself made some money on this also for us doing it. Yeah, it was. They did it at $1,250 for this one, and then the one that Deputy Chief Giuliano was another $1,250. So $2,500 was donated to the foundation for us doing this for them. So it was great. And this kid, this little guy, this guy right here, we had to almost tackle him to get our helmet back. He loved that. So it was a great day all in all. And now I'll turn it over to Deputy Chief Giuliano. That's all I have.
Thank you, Greg. We had ours also. It was a 10-year-old birthday party for this little girl here. Her name is Sammy Jo. She was as cute as can be. They had about 11 of her friends there, and like Chief DeWitt said, this was from the developmentally disabled. They paid $1,250 for this. And so we said, well, we're going to turn it into a training evolution for our guys and include the kids and have a great time with them. So we had the firefighters out there, and we were burning things, and they were watching, and they were just enjoying every minute of it. They were really having a good time. They included us in her birthday, and we had cake, and the firefighters ate with the kids, and we interacted with them, and we just had a blast. They had a really good time. They couldn't stop talking enough about how much fun they were having. Like Chief DeWitt just said, our guys had just as much fun. So it was really a good evening for us. We started about 6:30, and we were there until about 9:30 actually. And all the kids were just having fun. And that gentleman there, he's a firefighter from Ohio that was with the group. He was very impressed with our station facilities, and a real nice guy, the guy on the right there. So also Lee County EMS was there, and they joined right in with us. We fed them, we gave them birthday cake, and they went out there with the ambulance and brought the kids around, lights and sirens around the station, gave them tours of the ambulance. The kids really enjoyed it. That's them inside playing. They were just all kids. It was all smiles the whole time. That's Sammy Jo right there with a birthday cake. So everybody had a great time. And we enjoyed it. Like I said, I'd do that any day of the week. So, thank you.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
I did want to mention before we move on, Deputy Chief Scott would grab it. For anybody who wasn't here for the 50th anniversary, we unveiled our district flag for our 50th anniversary, and I didn't get to say this at the 50th anniversary. I gave a lot of kudos to it, but Nicole Hornberger is our Betsy Ross of the Bonita Springs Fire Control and Rescue District. She designed this flag with, the help of some input, but I give her the credit, and her name will reign for the next 50 years. But we're real proud of it, and the ceremony was fantastic, and just wanted to let the public see our new district flag.
Our first district flag.
Our first district flag, yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Deputy Chief Scott?
I have nothing to see.
Then we move on to Commissioner's business.
I get some.
Huh?
Yeah, I have something to
Well, they come, for some reason, we've moved them down the agenda. Local 3444, we'll do that ahead of the Commissioner's business. I don't know why it ever got moved.
I just got a couple announcements. Just a reminder, this Memorial Day on Monday, or the 25th, there'll be a service the city's putting on. We'll be over there. Our honor guard will be at that. And also, it's still 2 months away, but the 4th of July parade's coming up on July 4th. It's a Saturday. Same thing, it starts at Rosemary Drive. Should put my glasses on too. Same thing, it starts at Rosemary Drive and ends at Pennsylvania. And then they do a loop back to the stage, which will be across from the band shell. This year's theme is Shooting for the Stars, Educating Tomorrow's Leaders. It was created by the students at Spring Creek Elementary. Every year we pick a different school and they decide what the theme's going to be. And for anybody that wants to put an entry into the parade, they can go to the union's website, www.local3444.org, or I believe there's a link. There's going to be a link on the department's website also. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner's business. Start with Commissioner Castillo.
Thank you. I just want to say I had a wonderful time, and I was proud to be part of the 50th anniversary ceremony, and I had a great time at the affair afterwards at the cocktail party, and I thank everyone who did all the work to get that so well managed and so well run. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I want to also say that I enjoyed the ceremony. I thought it was very well done, and all the comments or the speakers were very good. What I wanted to bring up was we're in a different day, unfortunately. I wish to heck we weren't, but almost every week you're hearing about policemen getting shot. So, there have been shots fired at first responders. I know I've talked to the chief several times about I thought we needed to be equipping our men and getting armor-protected clothing and so on. I personally think, but that's not what I wanted to talk about, that we should be at some point seriously considering training our men and having them the ability to defend if they're attacked. Because one of the things that the terrorists, the bad guys, do is create an incident, and then the first responders come and they get wiped out as part of the thing. Not necessarily a bomb, but being shot is just as bad as getting blown up. Now, along that line, we're in a new era, and that era is expanding faster than probably the iPhone, if you can imagine that. At least it's on a fast track, like what happened when Apple brought out their iPhone. And that is what you call pilotless vehicles, and also the robots. And I think that we should explore, I'm not saying spend any money initially, but I think that some of our senior staff, in combination with the rank and file as well as the officers, brainstorm and figure out what all a pilotless remote controlled vehicle can do for the department. And I believe that if we put our think outside the box, we can then within say 6 months or so develop up a real good presentation, which we could probably take to like Homeland Security or other departments, and we may just very well get a grant funded to start doing this. And I think that rather than our fire district being not necessarily the leader, we could be the leader in something that's going to happen. And I think it could do a lot of things for a lot of things we do, anything from immediately knowing where to go and what's torn up after we have a hurricane, to some major hazardous material spill, even fighting fires. And if you put in the little remote control robots they have, it's like I said to the chief today, it'd be better to kill a robot or have a robot lose its arm than one of the firefighters. So I would hope that each of the commissioners would individually at least encourage the chief and support any efforts he might make towards getting his senior staff, but also all the, because everybody's got good ideas. It's just a matter of thinking about what could an extra set of eyes, and actually remote pilotless vehicles, they can do a lot of things. You hear about them on what they do on the battlefield, but it's coming, and in fact, there's just a big national symposium on them, and they're going to be doing all kind of things with them commercially in business. And really, those that think about how to do something like this early will get in on the ground floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Murphy?
I'd be very interested to see what the sheriff's department is currently doing and what their input could be for us.
Now, that was part of my idea, that we would, after we get going on it, we would bring them into the plan. Yeah, we'd bring them into the plan, obviously.
Thank you.
Commissioner McCourt?
I'm fine.
I would like to reiterate,
Hello.
I would like to reiterate what a really powerful day Saturday was for the celebration, how it was touching. It was very well attended by city council, by many people. It was just, it was a very, very nice experience, and a job very well done, especially by the girls. They really worked hard to put it together, and it could not. I've had more people tell me what an outstanding day it was, and we can't give them enough credit. They did a really super job.
I'd like to add just how proud I was of everybody who participated. It was quite an amazing day.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Any public input? I have no cards, but if we have some public input this evening.
Yes, Alex Grant, 11851 East Terry Street. By the way, former volunteer here for 12 years. Anyway, what I am concerned about looking at the budget, we are spending $415,000 a year in both an impact fees and what the difference, doesn't matter what it is, for a loan that was, I believe, in 2002 for this very fire station. Now, at that time, I believe, according to the first copy that I have of the final budget hearing, this was September 23rd, 2002, item 3, the reason for increase in the budget that was for the millage for 2.3 mills was, among other things, was the construction cost, furniture, equipment for Station 4. And of course, that was also for Station 1 and 5, etc. And also, I assume Station 2, which was built during a 4-year period of time. Anyway, we were charged as taxpayers 2.3 mils because of these construction costs with all these fire stations. Yet, the former fire commissioners that were in office in 2002, 2003 or so, went and got a loan for $6,298,000, nearly $500 or so, for this very same fire station that the auditors finally determined was about $6,800,000 cost. Now, why are we still paying for the bank for the mortgage for this fire station when we had already been taxed for the same fire station? According to my limited knowledge of accounting and figuring this out, by 2023, the total construction cost, if you include the construction costs and what we are paying to the bank for 20 years, $415,000 a year, this would amount to some $24,500,000 for the actual total construction cost of this fire station. So this is just...
Alex, you're coming up on time.
Thank you. Well, anyway, it's something I think somebody will...
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Deborah McLean. I'm the publisher of the Banana Peel. And I wanted to elaborate on Commissioner Forbes' suggestion about safety and robots. And I, believe it or not, I was once married to a policeman. So I very much approve of the vest idea. And I also study how fire districts and departments around the nation and in other countries are operating. They are indeed wearing fire protection gear under their bunker gear, and they're also putting active shooters on the trucks. And that's something that I find very interesting. Most of our firemen are military and know how to handle themselves with a gun, but perhaps the term active shooter means that one person on the truck is armed. There's a gun on the truck, and that person acts like a SWAT team member, is dressed differently, and stands guard until the sheriff can get there if they're not there already. Okay. The other thing I found very interesting was the word referendum. And when you have a referendum, it's a citywide issue, and I think that attendance and product knowledge should be added to the fire commissioner's duties, that they should be in attendance, they should read their commissioner's packets in a timely manner, and be able to speak intelligently about the issues. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a sad state of affairs that we have to talk about arming firemen. It's the times we live, but I never thought I'd live long enough to be having this conversation. Any further public input? Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Meeting adjourned.
That was